Good afternoon. I'm Jessie from Links Up, and we are having this webinar series. This is the third of our series to introduce you to a little bit about Links Up and how GPS can help create a more efficient fleet. But also, this one's going to have a little bit deeper dive into our dash cam solution. So to start off here, I'm going to just give you a little bit of information about Links Up and GPS in general so that we can spend more time on that dash cam solution. But they really kind of go hand in hand, and you can't have our dash cam solution without the GPS. So lay the foundation first here. Links Up was founded in 2004. We have about 45,000 customers and almost 200,000 devices in the field that we're tracking. And this could be on vehicles as well as assets. And I'll mention here at the end, we also have, specific for Real Green customers even, we have a mower tracker asset tracker that has been really popular. Specifically, what some of the Real Green customers are saying, this was John Taylor from Virginia Green, who's the facility managers in Richmond. He recently, Virginia Green has moved over to our GPS tracking solution. And when I spoke with him, he just said that they just had a meeting the other day and discussed the tools, and that the biggest takeaway by far was just how super, super easy it is to use. It's very, user intuitive. There's not a lot of like digging or secret spots that you've got to go here to find this or anything like that. Also being able to create and change those geofences. We have them so that you can do just a perimeter, but you can also change them into a polygon, so you can really get a detailed boundary line of any type of campus or yard or land at all. And that was really helpful, because then you're able to set job times, how long they've been in that geofence, how long it took them to complete that job, and then along with our mower tracker, how long were the mowers running, what was the pattern. You can go in and do some training as far as this should really be mowed east to west based on less amount of turns. As we know, everyone is having kind of some labor shortages. So all industries have newer, more green employees that are working for them. So being able to then have a remote way to monitor those newer employees, just to be able to coach them on the most efficient ways to save your company some business and some money. John Taylor also says that compared to the previous provider, that the software overall is just more intuitive, it has more functionality, and it just works better for them, which the other, the previous provider was Verizon, so it is a little bit of a larger name that you would think would also have a pretty robust solution, but ours was hands down the winner when they did that assessment and have continued to remain happy with it. This is kind of just a snapshot of what not the map necessarily, the map's going to look, the same with your moving dots, but this kind of gives you a dashboard of our reports. So you can really drill into any of this reporting specifically, especially safety and safety scorecards for individual vehicles, as well as teams. You can group them together. And then you can also look at that regarding, idling stops, how many miles they've driven based on what their safety scorecard is. It takes all of that into consideration. We pride ourselves on being one of the easiest GPS systems available, but also one of the most cost effective. We are very flexible. We're based, our headquarters is right here in St. Louis, Missouri, which is where I'm based in the Midwest, but our warehouse is based there. Our customer support team is based here, as well as our R&D teams. We don't outsource anything, so everything is right here in the US, and then more importantly for that, distribution is right in the middle of the country, so we can get you anything within a couple days. If you need a replacement, if you need to order some additional equipment for new trucks, anything like that. With that being said, since we are based here, we do have everything kind of in-house. We're really flexible. We have an array of different devices that you can do the plug-in options, the wired options. When we get into asset trackers, we have battery powered, solar powered, wired in. So anything that you're looking to track, we can really kind of meet you with whatever needs that you have and make sure that you have the right device for that. We do have a web-based portal that you can log into, but we also have a free mobile app for iOS and Android. You can have as many users as you'd like on there. We have month-to-month contract options as well as no activation fees, and our contracts don't auto-renew. So we do have contract options, and that helps subsidize some of the pricing of the hardware. But if you would prefer to not have a contract, we have that option as well. And it's still not astronomically, it's still pretty cost effective. So it's not outrageous if you decided to not go on contract. The features that we include, as I mentioned, we have a pretty robust solution. The geofencing that I was speaking about, how you can really set that around job sites to get notifications when they're there, but also the amount of time spent there. Driving behaviors, safety scorecards. You can go back and look at route replays, idle times, unauthorized use. You're able to set, your normal working hours, and so then you'd be notified of any time that the vehicle was being used outside of that time frame. So this could either be one, if it's the middle of the night, you could be notified as a vehicle was being stolen, you could be notified. Or if it's nights and weekends, it could potentially be personal use or side jobs, but you're able to have that cold hard data right there to be able to present to anyone that it might be in question, or to dig into it further and look at some route replays, historically, timestamp, where were they, when were they there, how long were they there, to figure out what's really going on and how your fleet's being used, as well as your assets. You can set authorized hours of use on your assets as well. Maintenance, you can set preventative maintenance features, so you're able to get notifications on any maintenance that's coming up and due, so you're able to schedule that and have that a part of your, just kind of a rotating maintenance schedule. If you use our plugin option, it will alert you if there's a check engine light that comes on, and also to the diagnostic code for it. So it'll send the DTC code, it'll have a Google link, so you're able to see before that vehicle even comes back in, okay, this is what's going on, this is what it's telling us is wrong with it, these are the parts that I might need, I'm gonna go ahead and get those ordered. But also we've heard from many customers that if the vehicles are kept by the employees, that if it's an employee, they just don't want to keep up with the maintenance, and so they'll get the vehicle back maybe after an employee quits, and the dashboard's lit up like a Christmas tree, and they didn't keep on top of it, and they really put some wear and tear on that vehicle and tore it up. So this way you're able to see a little bit further into that and know if employees are keeping up with that maintenance schedule. The alerts, anything you can imagine, harsh braking, rapid acceleration, idling alerts, first ignition of the day, ignition on, ignition off, geofencing, anything that you need to alerts on, it'll all be captured there, and then you can determine if you want immediate notifications on that or not. Either way, it's captured in our reporting. And then our dash cam feature, which is what we'll kind of dig into a little bit deeper here. So all of those features kind of help to solve these problems, knowing where the assets and vehicles are, monitoring the driver behavior, ensuring that you're putting a safe fleet out on the road, validating those time cards. You're able to see where they are with the timestamp of in our portal on that route replay, or the geofence activity. When they then, if they're clocking in, through the Real Green software, you can go back and look into our portal and say, okay, where were they at that time? If there's ever a question that comes into play, or if you have geofencing set up for the work site, okay, they clocked in at 8:15, but they didn't show up on that job site till 8:45. What was the discrepancy there? Reducing fuel costs with those idling alerts and being able to go back and make sure that you were taking efficient routes, avoiding surprise breakdowns with the preventative maintenance reminders, protecting against theft, recording those event-driven videos with our dash cam feature, optimizing dispatching by having real-time location, preventing unauthorized use, as I mentioned earlier, and then overall minimizing your liability. So let's get into the dash cam. The current dash cam offer, that's the dash cam right there. So it's fairly small, and it does have like a suction cup on the back of it. It has an arm that comes off of it, so it kind of rests on the dash, and then that suction cup kind of helps hold it in place. So the suction cup's not holding the weight, but the stand on it's not, keeping it in place. They kind of work well together. And then all of our dash cams will be triggered by those alerts that I mentioned earlier. So if there's a geofence alert, a speeding alert, ignition of the day, idling alert, harsh braking, rapid acceleration, any of those, there's automatically in your portal next to that alert a 20-second video that's captured. This is 10 seconds before and 10 seconds after that alert. So this really gives you that additional color into, okay, is this was it a harsh braking alert? We have tons of them from this particular driver. Let's look into this. Oh, he's in traffic quite a bit. It turns out that people are cutting him off or whatever it may be, and he's actually paying attention and doing exactly what he's supposed to do. Or we have a lot of harsh braking alerts. Oh, look at it, he's texting quite a bit while he's driving, which is, potentially, and I would hope, against your, your fleet safety policy. These are also, there's also alerts generated from the camera. So if the ignition is off, it does go into guard mode. And then if it is triggered by an alert such as broken glass or movement, 2 bright LED lights will come on into the camera, into the vehicle, so that if there is someone in the vehicle that's trying to break in or steal the vehicle, you're able to catch a really crisp, clear picture of whoever that might be to send to the authorities. Also, when those lights come on, it tends to obviously deter them from stealing the vehicle, which is the end goal. Being able to know where the vehicle is if something's been stolen is great, but being able to prevent that altogether so you don't have any downtime is the end goal. It does install very quickly. It works with any of our trackers. As I said about the lights flooding into the cab of the vehicle, it has an internal and an external facing camera. So you're able to see what's happening on the road, and then again, flip back and see, was the driver distracted? Were they, adhering to our safety policies? You can actually live view into the camera at any time, and you can view into the inside or the outside. So if something happens or you're getting some weird alerts that you're trying to figure out what's going on with that driver, you can just live view in and see what's happening. It's also nice that you can go in and see, okay, they've been idling for an hour. What are they doing? Where are they at? Is this work related? Our cameras are one of the only ones that have an audible command that you can also trigger a vehicle, a video clip. If the driver says, okay, presto, then they're able to record a clip in case if an alert didn't trigger it already. So our cameras are recording the whole time ignition is on, and they capture 45 hours of drive time. You can go back and view the day at any time. So if something happened that didn't trigger an alert that you still want to go back and view, you are able to do that. It's not that it's only the alerts. The alerts are nice though, because then it kind of just helps you, find that needle in a haystack and really narrow it down so that you can go back and just view those alerts and those more dangerous behaviors that are triggering the alerts versus having to just scrub through video. But if there is something that you're needing to look at that was not captured, you can go back and do that. Or if something happened that the driver feels like they want to make sure is captured by an alert triggered in the portal, they can say, okay, presto. As we mentioned, there's those LED spotlights for theft prevention if it is in guard mode. And then also new is the infrared lighting for on the inside. So it's almost kind of like a night vision, but for low light, options. And we heard this a lot, especially from some of the landscape companies, because, your crews, the first ignition of the day is, sometimes usually before sun up, that they're getting ready to leave and to get their day started. So in those low light situations, before the sun comes up early in the morning or in the evening, we do have that infrared lighting now that you are still able to see what driver is in there, what are they doing, what time it was that first ignition of the day and what's happening. So all of this you're able to then, go back and use to give more color into your fleet safety, but also to provide some really great ROI and coachable moments potentially with your drivers. I do have a couple of videos here of how one company is using the dash cam. So it's a little bit outside the box, not quite landscape related, but just something to think about. This is an actual sanitation company. And so on this outside camera is able to capture every time they pull up to a dumpster. And then if the dumpster is overflowing, the driver says, okay, presto, over like the address, so that then it's tagged in their portal, that then they're able to capture that. They take a screen share of that and they put it on the invoice to the customer, because a lot of times they were having issues with the customer kind of disputing invoices because there is an extra charge if the dumpster is full like that. So they're able to just capture it. There's no more disputes. They're able to actually collect on all of those now. And it's a really great feature. So just something to kind of think about outside of the box, so that it's not just, on the road behaviors that you're trying to capture. But speaking of on the road, the behaviors that you're capturing, here is an incident where it's the same company, a sanitation company, but a driver actually swerved into their lane of traffic and had a head-on collision. So they were able to pull this video up, send it to the authorities, send it to the insurance companies. It was resolved very quickly without any disputes, without fighting it, without going back and forth and having this big investigation. So something also that comes up with that sometimes is people will say, well, what if we were at fault? Then it shows that. Well, it has been proven that it's easier if you were at fault to just get the claim resolved than trying to fight it. The time and energy and money that costs you is usually, it's easier and faster to resolve it quickly with this video. But a lot of times it has been used to exonerate people, especially in those, which this is not the case, but in those intentional accidents with having a company name on the side of a vehicle, sometimes your drivers become target of aggressive behavior from other drivers to be able to capture that. So here is one where, like I said, they were able to use it to exonerate their driver without a big, long investigation. And you can see here, everyone was okay. So, right there, it just captures it perfectly as far as who was at fault, what exactly the situations were, road conditions at the time. And that also brings up a nice fact about if there are bad road conditions, the driver calls and says, hey, listen, we've had some issues here. We have some really bad road conditions. You can live view in and see exactly what the driver's seeing and not have to, have them describe it to you and go through it all or whatever the case is. So then here is kind of just the overall, what dash cams layered in with our GPS can do as far as that incident management, exonerating those drivers, being able to use the clips to dismiss false claims, and then reduce the resolution time with the insurance companies. One customer recounted being able to successfully defend several accident claims very quickly that they were not at fault with. So that's a nice feature. And then, as I said, being able to assess the road conditions remotely with that live view option, or being able to go back and see what road conditions were. Having the driver management, gaining insight to identify and retain your best drivers, but then the ability to spot check drivers and also to use the videos to coach drivers to, mitigate that behavior. But in those coaching moments, to be able to pull up the video so it's right there in front of that driver so that they can really have that eye-opening moment of seeing what was actually happening. One of our customers said, one of their best drivers they didn't realize was constantly texting while they were driving, that they never would have known that had they not had these cameras, which, is a huge liability. So they were able to mitigate that to prevent any accidents down the road. And then reducing that liability. So viewing the conditions and then having the 24/7 protection of the guard mode with broken glass or movement to be able to capture if there is, someone breaking in or vandalizing the vehicle, capturing it. I mentioned earlier that we do have the asset trackers that are, wired in, solar powered, battery powered. But vehicles aren't the only things that we track. That was really kind of the focus of this webinar. We do have a previous webinar if you're interested in that goes specifically into our mower trackers, which I'll show a little bit here. But we do have that mower tracker to have proof of concept, but to also then be able to coach newer, inexperienced teams on the most effective way to, run your operations. We do have a previous webinar, if you're interested, that will be posted out there that goes specifically into mower tracker and all the details regarding it. If you are interested on any of that information, though, you can always reach out to me or go to the links up site on the links up page on the Real Green site. And that's really it. So if you have any questions about GPS, dash cams, mower trackers, my contact information is here. And there's also some previous webinars posted about those as well. Thank you very much.